The woman in the photograph. The first time I saw her, I didn't think anything of it. I was walking down the street on my way home from work. It was a sunny day, and the sidewalks were crowded. I was approached by a man carrying a stack of pamphlets and wearing a bright red t-shirt. He made eye contact with me, and I knew I was done for. I accepted the pamphlet he handed me to try to get out of a conversation. Usually, I would throw these things in the nearest trash can, but this time, I opened it. Inside the pamphlet was a photograph. I picked it up and examined it as I walked. It looked old, yellowing around the edges. The photograph was of a woman. She looked young, but her hair was gray. It fell over her face and obscured her eyes from the camera. She wore a long dress that swept the floor. Her stance was a bit strange, a bit stiff, but that was usual for old photographs. I turned to give the photo back to the man with the pamphlets, but he was gone. I didn't throw it away. Instead, I threw it in my junk drawer when I got home. I didn't give it much thought after that. It was a bit strange, but weirder things happened every day. The next time I saw her, it was a weekend morning, months after receiving the photograph. The brunch crowd was out, and I had to swerve to avoid bumping into people. I looked up from my phone after texting a friend that I was meeting. A ways down the street, a woman stood, slightly angled, so I could only see her profile, but not her full face. She wore a long dress. It looked old-fashioned, but my city was known for its unique, quirky style. She looked young, but her hair was gray and not dyed. Her head was cocked at a strange angle. I thought it was reminiscent of a broken neck. I got a strange feeling in my stomach, like butterflies. I thought she looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. Someone walked in front of her, and I lost sight. A month after that incident, I boarded the bus and was on my way home from work. I had been working a late shift, and the evening was getting on, turning into twilight. I settled into my seat, gazing out the window. A reflection of one of the passengers ahead of me caught my eye. I diverted my gaze to the front, where a woman was sitting with her back to me. Her hair was what caught my attention. It was the gray of an older woman, but you could tell by her figure that she was young. Her shoulders were slanted at an odd angle. She stared straight ahead, spine stiff as a rod. I glanced back at her reflection in the mirror. I could see smooth, pale skin reflected. I followed the pain of her cheek up towards her eyes. A glare in the glass prevented me from seeing them. A chill ran down my spine. I recognized her. She'd been on the street a month ago, but it wasn't just that. I pondered it the rest of the way home. When I got off the bus, I looked straight ahead as I passed her. When I looked in the window as the bus pulled away, she was gone. I told myself she had just moved seats. The air around me seemed colder, and the shadows seemed to leer at me as I hurried back up to my apartment. I took the stairs up, my feet pounding on the floor. My heart was racing by the time I reached my apartment. My hands shook as I unlocked the door. I took a deep breath when I got inside. I walked to the kitchen, and my eyes flitted over the junk drawer. A light bulb went off. I wrenched the drawer open, sending contents flying, and dug through it until I found the pamphlet. I set it down on the counter and opened it cautiously. The photograph was still there. It was her. I knew it for sure. The posture, the hair, even the bit of her face that I could see were all identical. Was this some sort of sick practical joke? The photograph must be fake, or the girl I had seen had to be an actor. There was no way it was the same person. I looked at the photograph more clearly. If I didn't know better, I would say that her posture had changed since the first time I saw her. It looked as though she was turning to face me. A week later, I was coming back home with my friend Rachel. We'd been out drinking, and she wanted to spend the night rather than go back to her place. We stumbled up the stairs of my apartment building. It was late, and my vision was a bit blurry from the drinks. We were trying to be as quiet as we could, but Rachel's giggling was loud enough to wake the dead. We turned the corner to get to my apartment. I saw a figure standing towards the end of the hallways. I assumed it was one of my neighbors, also coming back from a late night. I was fumbling for my keys when a movement from the figure made me glance up. My blood froze. The long hair, the sweeping dress. It was her. She was standing with her back to me. She was slightly turned. I wondered if that was the movement I had seen. She stood as if one leg were crooked, and her arms bent at strange angles. I wanted to scream, but it was stuck in my throat. "Hey, Earth to Laura, can you unlock the door? It's freezing in your building," Rachel said from next to me. I kept my eyes on the woman. She was standing as still as a statue. Her hair moved slightly, as if a breeze were blowing past her. Her voice spurred me into action. I grabbed my keys, unlocked the door, and shoved Rachel inside. I slammed it behind me. My heart was beating so fast I wondered if I was having a heart attack. "What the hell?" Rachel asked. I kept my voice at a whisper. "We need to call the police." "What are you talking about?" Rachel said, fear creeping into her voice. "That person at the end of the hall? I think they've been following me," I said. My voice trembled. Rachel looked at me strangely. "Did your drink get spiked or something? There was no one else in the hallway." "The woman, you must have seen her," I argued. Rachel rolled her eyes. She shoved me aside, opened the door, and peeked out. "See? No one here. I think you should drink some water." Despite her reassurances, I didn't sleep at all that night, or for the next few nights after that. After Rachel left the next morning, I locked my door and all of my windows. I checked in every closet and under every piece of furniture. I took the picture out of the pamphlet again. This time, it had definitely changed poses. Was someone sneaking into my apartment and changing out the photographs? Was this a sinister prank, an attempt to make me go insane, or something worse? I burned the photograph in the gas flames from my stove. The next few days were uneventful. It's been 5 days since I've seen her. I wonder if burning the photograph actually worked. I still haven't been sleeping, and I'm scared to leave my apartment. I've only left for work, and I've called in sick for 2 days. Rachel thinks I'm crazy, but I'm willing to take the risk until I know that I'm safe. I'm sitting on my couch. The television is playing in the background, but I'm not really watching. Rachel says she's coming over later. I have dark circles under my eyes. Maybe seeing someone else will help me relax, help me sleep. I'm starting to nod off already. The sleepless nights are catching up to me. I hear a knock on my door. It startles me awake from my half-sleep. I think that it must be Rachel. It's strange, she usually texts me when she's on her way up. I think she's a bit irritated with my behavior, so maybe she didn't this time. I rub my eyes and yawn, padding over to the door. I unlock the door and glance through the eye hole. I freeze. The woman is outside my door. This time, I can see her eyes staring directly into mine. Her eyes are coal black, deep and boundless. I can't look away. Her blood-red lips curl into an imitation of a smile. The door handle turns.